with income and capital gains tax rates being so low and have been low for quite some time, do you think they can stay that low given the deficits that we have? And if not, which most people think they won't, what are the ramifications of higher taxes on the stock market, the bond market, and the real estate market even as well?
Yeah, I don't think we'd find too many people who would say that the combination of government spending and cash inflows is sustainable, whether it's in the U.S. or in lots of countries around the world. We're seeing what's going on in Greece. So if it's not sustainable, then the question is, how will that be resolved? And the two most obvious ways for it to be resolved are either a cut in spending or an increase in taxes. I think, and I just want to preface this with any comments I make about any politically tinged events, it's not necessarily what I think should happen. It's more an analysis of what I think is likely to happen. If you look at the distribution of wealth in the country, the distribution of wealth is more skewed to the wealthy than it's been at some points in the past. Typically, when that's been the case, then the burden of that resolution will tend to fall more on the tax side of the equation. If the distribution of wealth were in a situation where it was around the historical averages, then I might think that more of the burden of changes would fall on the spending side of the equation. But it's Paul McCulley from PIMCO wrote a piece maybe 8 or 10 years ago talking about the balance between capitalism and democracy. And capitalism is $1, one vote, and democracy is one person, one vote. And basically, the people on sort of the lower half of the income and wealth scale are less willing to give up the services that they're getting from the government in a case when the distribution of wealth is somewhat skewed. So yes, I do think that there is going to be pressure on taxes, and that historically has had typically negative impacts on a variety of financial markets.
I would only add to that, from our opinion, we would agree. There's no question that at some point in time, you have to pay the piper, and that's coming, and that's going to be in the form of certainly higher federal taxes. We think state taxes will go up. Obviously, we think that could have some impact on capital gains. Another area that's being discussed is the VAT, the value-added tax, and I'm not quite sure anyone in this room or anyone in my organization truly knows what the impact of that will be. If you look at the liberal side of the political spectrum, it might be regressive. If you look at the more conservative side, it might mean a lot of cash, but that may reverse. So you have a lot of uncertainty about the impacts to your question about some of this, other than the fact that from a bond standpoint, obviously higher taxes are going to equate to demand increasing for something called a tax-free investment. I think there's a lot more pressure on people like ourselves to create solutions for you all and work with people like Steve and the others here to create not only tax-free solutions, but tax-aware solutions. So the message is it's going to have an extreme impact on our take-home and after tax. And I think the message would be you need to huddle with your advisor and not only think about tax-free strategies, but tax-aware strategies.
So are we going to have to pay the piper? The question is, what is our tolerance for debt? And increasingly, the question is, what's the world's tolerance for our debt? And it's sort of interesting because I'd teach undergraduates 35 years ago, and we'd be talking about national debt. And at that time, sort of paying the piper was not, we weren't worrying about it that much. And I'd offer them the choice. Which would you rather have, a Sony stereo system or a piece of paper that says, we owe you some money? And when they thought about it that way, there was really a very strong feeling against increasing the debt back in that time period. They'd say, I think I'd rather have the stereo system as long as the people that have the piece of paper don't come calling. And, in the 35 years, they haven't ever come calling. So it sort of makes an interesting question. What are the long-term consequences of our having debt? We used to teach in economics that this is obligations of future generations, and at some point in time, taxes are going to go up to pay it off. They haven't in a very long time period, as long as we maintain our status as sort of the reserve currency. So it's not quite so clear to me that what's going on with debt is going to be driving what's going to be happening. I do agree with you that taxes are going to be going up. I think that's a political outcome that's going to occur. And so for those people that are investing, the comments that you both made are right on the mark. You know, if you do have taxes and you're interested in finding ways to invest wisely in that environment.